everybody! Today I wanted to talk about orchestra etiquette for string players. This one's for you. Man, I wish there was a YouTube when I first started playing to help me out with orchestra etiquette, because I had to learn by going through it. So I'm here to help save you some embarrassment and know what you're getting yourself into ahead of time. Please learn from my 19 years of orchestral rehearsal experience and don't make the same mistakes as me. Alright, so first things first, you have to be early, not on time, certainly not late. You have to be early. Usually woodwind and brass players get there 20 to 30 minutes early, and string players should be in their seats like 10 to 15 minutes early. I try to be in my seat 15 minutes before we start tuning so that I can start warming up. That way I look professional to my colleagues and my conductor, and I'm ready to go. So speaking of warming up, that's another important point. What do you play when you warm up? We all have to do it, it's important. But it's probably not the time to be working on your concerto, or excerpts, or solos. Really, when you're warming up, maybe some scales and arpeggios or some simple exercises, but mostly you want to be working on the music that you're about to play in orchestra, which is probably what your stand partner also wants to look at. One of my most embarrassing moments was when I actually had a gig with my teacher a few years ago, and I forgot a pencil. And she was like, "How are you a professional violist and you don't have a pencil?" So don't be like me, always bring a pencil, always bring a mute. You never know when you're gonna need it. I just leave mine on my instrument all the time. Nothing is worse than having to ask around for a mute because nobody wants to give you one, so just bring your own. So tuning. We wanna try to tune as quietly as possible, which really doesn't always happen in orchestra. This is something we all forget to do sometimes. But it's hard to tune if you can't hear yourself. So we want to tune quietly so that everybody can hear themselves well. That's usually why we get 2 or 3 A's to tune in rehearsal. So don't blast out your open strings. It's annoying and unnecessary. Another simple one to remember is don't ever wear perfume or cologne or like strong smelling lotion or anything, because there's like these harsh lights shining down on everybody and it just permeates the stage and nobody wants a stinky stage. When you have a question, the way we do it is you pass that question up to the person in front of you and then they pass it up to the principal. So the principal will then ask that question whenever it seems appropriate. If there's a lull in the rehearsal and he can or she can raise their hand, often questions will just have to be asked during the break. But you never want to just like pipe up in the middle of rehearsal. So here's another one that I had to learn the hard way. I've always known not to cross my legs while I'm playing, so that's a big one. Never cross your legs when you're playing. You always want to have your feet on the floor. That will also help keep any kind of pain away, just making sure your posture's in check. But anyways, if your conductor is even just talking to you, don't cross your legs. I did this one time when I was playing principal, probably like 3 years ago, and he was just talking to me, or to the orchestra. He was just talking to the orchestra, and I was listening and making eye contact, but, you know, I had my legs crossed. And oh my gosh, he called me out in front of the whole orchestra, and that is definitely one of my most embarrassing moments. So don't be like me, keep your feet uncrossed. You don't want the conductor to feel disrespected. Even though that is totally not what your intention was, just keep your feet on the ground. Oh, I got another good one. So, never turn around and face the people behind you, like the woodwinds, the brass, and the timpani, or the percussion section. Like, don't do it. You would hate it if somebody were turning around and staring at you while you're trying to play a solo. It's the same kind of thing. It's perceived as being rude, and it also puts some stress on them. And we're all stressed out enough as it is, right? So, I've heard that from a lot of friends in the back of the hall. Don't turn around and stare, it's rude. So, another most embarrassing moment of mine that I'm hoping to spare you of. When I was a beginner violist and I was in probably 6th or 7th grade, I picked up my viola and right before break, I set her down with the scroll on the stand. Oh. Because I saw other people had done that in my school orchestra. Yeah, I totally got chewed out in front of the whole orchestra for doing that. My conductor super embarrassed me, but you know what? I never did it again. When it comes to break time, just put your instrument away in the case, put the extra effort in to just make sure it's safe. People, we spend a lot of money on our instruments. You don't want anything to happen to them. Your bow's on the stand, your instrument's out, people are walking around. It could be madness. So just put it away. Save yourself the stress. Okay, so we all want to stay on the conductor's good side. So when he or she asks you to do something, whether or not you feel that it's reasonable, that you're able to, that you want to, it doesn't really matter. This is one of those situations where you have to be respectful and just do what the conductor asks you to do. Pretty much in all situations, just do what the conductor asks, then you'll try it. If it's a total fail, then the conductor will be like, okay, never mind. You know, or maybe it'll be glorious. You don't know unless you try. Just give it a shot. That's the best way to get on a conductor's good side. Another way to get on a conductor's good side is to constantly be making eye contact so that your face isn't buried in the music at all times, which is something we all have to learn to do. It's kind of tough. It's a skill that we learn in orchestra, to be reading the music, be listening to the people around you, and to be making eye contact and checking in with your conductor so that they know that you see them and that you're paying attention to them as well. We're all building the skill of coordination, so this is just another coordination that you build into your playing during orchestra over the years. But the best thing you can really do to get on a conductor's good side is simply to show up prepared. Practice your music, don't be sight reading in rehearsal. Another one of my most embarrassing moments was in college, one of my first rehearsals ever. I woke up late with total bedhead and just threw on a beanie. It was winter, and I showed up to rehearsal and my conductor was like, nope, no hats. And I was like, oh, really? Cause you don't want to see what's going on under this. And she was just kind of like tough. So I had to go the whole rehearsal with like the worst head of hair ever. I didn't even have a hair tie or anything. I just had to go through the rehearsal with like seriously bad hair. Hashtag worst hair day ever. So don't wear hats to rehearsals. It's kind of an unspoken rule of orchestra. So even beanies you don't want to wear. It's just, you're taken more seriously if you're not wearing a hat. You look more professional. If you're wearing a hat with a brim on it, it's harder to see the conductor. You also have to be able to see the people around you. So hats are a big no-no in orchestra rehearsal. Another thing that I wanted to mention for anybody who's interested in learning more about orchestra etiquette is you really shouldn't bring anything but bottled water on stage. Or, you know, water in a cup or something with a lid on it. Food also, you don't want to bring in the hall. You want to leave it backstage or away from the stage. Maybe backstage is probably not even a good place. I usually don't bring food back to the hall at all unless there's a fridge or someplace I can keep it where people aren't going to be smelling it. Again, nobody wants a stinky stage. And one of the last things I really wanted to talk about is the responsibility of the even-numbered string players. I didn't know this till later on in my training, but the even-numbered chairs are responsible for taking notes during rehearsals. So if you're playing and the conductor yells out, you know, violas, you're too loud, then maybe you need to mark it softer. That's your responsibility so that the odd number players can keep playing. Even if you're stopped, the general rule is the even-numbered players are the ones to make markings. Now, if the odd-numbered player wants to mark something, cool, go for it. You know, no harm, no foul. Try to be the one to pick up the pencil if you're the even-numbered player. The other thing about being an even-numbered player, other than being the one to always turn pages, is that you should be putting your fingerings below the staff line so that the odd-numbered people can put it above the staff line. Now, if you both do the same fingerings, then you're golden. Problem solved. I know a lot of what I've said is common sense, but a lot of it you don't know unless you go through it. So I hope that this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps support my channel, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.